It's Thursday the 12th of January and it's pretty miserable outside. Rain forecast all day, but it's not too cold. So today on the project, I have just taken out this set square which I'm using as an anode, and as you can see it's just collecting rust, which hopefully is rust that is now not on the inside of my tank. This is about the 7th or 8th tank full I've used, and I got a feeling I'm going to be here for another few weeks before I get rid of all the rust, but hopefully it's working. In the meantime, today's job is to continue fitting my electrics. I fitted all this lot: the nacelle, the headlight, the ammeter. That's the second ammeter that I fitted. The first one fell to pieces, literally brand new ammeter. All the backing fell out on the floor, little bits and pieces which I couldn't find, so I bought another ammeter. So I've now got to fix the harness a little bit better, and then fit the battery box. There's the battery box. Fit the battery box to there, and connect up the battery and make sure that all the electrics to the headlight work. And then I think I'm going to start grinding in these valves onto the head and get those nice and bedded in, and then over to the engine and get ready for fitting in the frame. Onwards and upwards. And it's still Thursday the 12th of January, and it's been pouring with rain, and I've got my tank all neatly set up for the next blasting of derusting. But I spent the last 5 hours, I'd say, fitting the battery compartments, and this ignition switch, which took me about an hour to get it so it's solid in there. I had to find 2 washers and fettle them to get them to the right diameter, which is one of them things. And then put the battery in, nice bit of rubber underneath to give it a bit of a mount. And I've put the ignition coil on just temporarily while I wait for the proper mounting to come to me from Rupert Ratio. And then I've connected up the rectifier. Had to find a screw that actually was the right diameter, which took me another, I don't know how many hours. And traced using my multimeter all these wires going to the right places, either to the ignition coil, ignition coil, ignition switch, and to the these wires are eventually going to go to the alternator when I fit the engine. So it's it's 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. But I can't put the oil tank on yet, because I need to get the hoses that connect onto there, such that the oil hoses, such that they come through the bottom, I think through that hole there, out towards the engine. But I need to get those oil pipes before I can put this oil tank on. And in order to get at the mounting bolts to mount the oil tank and the other side panel, I've had to take the wheel off about for the 15th time. So making progress, but a little bit frustrating in places. It's Monday the 16th of January, and it's a reasonably parky day out today, but nothing too bad for a winter's morning in mid-January. But today is what I think is going to be the last day of my electrolysis, because I've now done 10 sessions where I filled up this tank with bicarbonate of soda as an electrolysis, and this is the top end of a set square, which is getting increasingly less rusty, and the inside of the tank is getting increasingly silver rather than brown. So I'm confident that it's working. So the next thing I'm going to do is take all these bits and pieces out and then fill the tank up with nuts and bolts. Well, enough that I can shake the tank around with a solution in it to try and release any last remaining bits of crud before I then start treating the tank internally and externally to make it look a bit more presentable. In the meantime, I've been doing more electrics, and what I've done is, unfortunately, there's 3 diagrams I'm referring to, and each of them is different. Different color coding and different ways of wiring up. So I've had to trace through all these wires from one end of the bike to the other, and then I've labeled them up so that we can see whether we've got an ignition switch or various lights. And I've managed to get the headlight working and wired up to the handlebar, just temporarily the headlight cable, which is one, and then the dip cable is the other, and the other cable I've got here is the horn switch. So I'm going to buy a horn switch shortly from my favourite shop, Fecht, and to put on there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just sort out the side light, make sure that works, and then go to this end and sort out all the rear lights. I've got the rear light working already, and I've also got the horn working, so things are making good progress. But what I won't be able to do until I've fitted the engine is making sure that the rectifier works, well, that the alternator delivers to the rectifier, and the rectifier then converts to DC and delivers to the battery, and battery gets charged. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to Fecht this afternoon, buy some more bits and pieces, switches, and cable connectors and bullets and stuff like that, plus a chain. I think I need a chain. At some stage I'm going to need a chain, so I'm going to buy one of those, and then hopefully carry on restoring this motorcycle. And it's Thursday the 19th of January, and it's 0 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning. A lovely winter's morning. Very frosty out today, so I'm not going for a ride on my trusty motorcycle. It'd be too dangerous, lots of accidents. But instead, I'm going to focus on the electrics. But the first thing I'm going to do is the latest stage in my epic project to clean this tank out, because I started off by using firstly white vinegar, and that was quite cheap, but it didn't work. So I used some specifically purchased rust remover, but to buy enough to fill the tank would cost me over £100. So I stopped using that, and I decided to go on to the route of electrolysis, and I spent 3 or 4 weeks and about 10 tankfuls, and it did work to the extent that it demolished this sacrificial anode, which used to be a set square, but it did collect a lot of rust, so that was good, but it was not perfect. And so I started to use some nuts and bolts that I shoved in the tank and shook it about with some water, and then drained it out, and each time I drained it out, more rust kept coming out. So although the electrolysis was good, it wasn't 100% perfect. So making good progress. But then I watched the motorcycle show with Henry Cole, and his best mate Alan Milliard, who's an expert on anything to do with motorcycle engineering, said use some of this stuff, molasses, which is basically a sugar. This is designed for a liquid feed material for horses and ponies, but you mix that in 1 part molasses, 9 parts water, pour it in your tank, leave to ferment for 2 weeks, they say, and it will do a fantastic job. And then I looked on YouTube, and there's loads of people doing just that, and sort of mostly with good positive results. So that's my next stage of my epic journey of trying to get the rust out of this motorcycle tank. And in the meantime, I've been shopping. I've been to my favourite shop, Fecht, near Cranbourne, and I have bought lots of goodies. A bracket for my ignition coil, and 2 insulating caps for my battery, plus 2 narrow diameter clips, and those are for this pipe, which is going to be an oil return pipe from the oil tank, from the rocker box to the oil tank. And then I've got some more pipe, which is going to be the main feed pipe from the oil pump manifold to the oil tank. And then I bought this switch, which is does 3 things. It's a high beam, low beam, and a horn, and that's going to go on here and connected up to these wires, high beam, low beam, horn, and that'll be that little electrical job done. And then I bought some insulation just to put around some of the wires, and then I bought another switch. This one is the rear brake stop switch, so that goes down here somewhere. I haven't quite worked out where yet, and that will make the rear brake light up when I press the rear brake pedal. Now I bought some more black bullet connectors and some more bullets, and a union for my oil tank filter. So this sticks underneath the filter, and then the plastic hose connects on there with a Jubilee clip. And then I've bought one of these. I won't need it just yet, but it's a chain to connect my engine to my rear wheel. 112 links. Not a bad price actually, only about £12, which surprised me, but it's not the best of quality, but it'll do for now. And so another 70 quid, 80 quid later. Today's job is to finish off doing the electrics, which means fitting that new bracket to the ignition coil, and then fitting that to the frame, mounting the horn and the rectifier, and then I will be loosely wiring up the rear light, but I haven't got the proper mounting for number plate. This is what came with the bike, but like many of the things that came with the bike, it belongs to a different bike. It's off a competition C15, not the road going version. But Dave Smith, otherwise known as Rupert Ratio, has got a boxed in version, which he's selling me at a very good price, which I will not mention, and it's going to arrive in the post in the next couple of days, and then I can bolt it on here, and that'll be the end of the electrics so far, until I've fitted the engine and sorted out if the alternator works or doesn't work, and then but that's a job for another day. In the meantime, I am wearing 5 outer layers, 3 pairs of trousers including a pair of tights, 3 pairs of socks, and 2 beanie hats, because in this garage there's no heating and it's freezing. And it's Sunday the 22nd of January, and it's midday, and it's 4 degrees C, so quite balmy really compared to the other day when it was like -4 degrees C, but still a bit too cold to ride this thing. Too many accidents are happening at the moment. I saw a car upside down in a ditch the other day on the way to Fecht to buy my bits, and I've had a little bit of success now. That mounting bracket all fitted up to hold the ignition coil, but that took a lot of mussing about because well, it just did. But I managed to fit my horn, got this bracket, so that's all fitted nicely, and my rectifier, got a nice L-shaped bracket fitted to that. So that was a nicely progressive day, with its frustrations of course. And in the meantime, Richard Ratio has come up trumps with this beautiful piece of tinware, which is the last piece of tinware that I need This thing is as rare as rocking horse poo. I haven't found any on eBay, Marketplace, Facebook, whatever. And then Rupert Ratio had one in his Aladdin's Cave of BSA bits. And I've just temporarily fitted it just now, just to make sure that the profile fits. It's nice and horizontal. And what I'm now going to do with this is make sure the electrics are working, but then I'm going to do the molasses treatment, because I've got my tank with molasses in it for 2 weeks of treatment to see if it actually gets rid of the remaining rust. But what I'm going to do with this is put this in a bucket of molasses and see for 9 weeks, for 2 weeks, if it removes all this rust, because then I'll know that what's happening on the outside of this bracket will be the same as what's going on inside that tank, and I'll know that if the tank is being cleaned. In the meantime, I've received my switch, but like most of these things, it didn't come with a electrical diagram. So I've got these 4 wires, and I've got to work out what they do, where they go, and so I'm going to have to draw my own little schematic diagram of what's going on inside this switch, and then I'll be able to connect up the horn, the dip, the main beam to get the lighting working properly. I've had quite some success in posting this video on the Facebook page, which is great. I've had over 100 views, and but the common question I get asked, especially by my friend Koshi, who I saw last night, he says, "What's with the red nail varnish?" Not interested in the engineering. All they want to know about is what's with the red nail varnish. Well, if you look at my website, juliamiller.me.uk, all will be revealed. But in the meantime, it's back to the engineering. It's now about 4 hours later, getting dark on a still very cold Sunday afternoon in January, and I think I've finished the wiring up for now, as far as I can go. So I got this switch working after working out how it all works. Now it seems to work. So, hey, so that's on the main beam. Oh, sorry, that's the side light. And that's the main beam, and that's the other, that's dip, main, whichever, can't work it out. Anyway, back to side light, and listen to this. Hee, got the horn working. And last but not least, as you can see, we've got the tail light working there. I've just temporarily connected up the brake light onto this pillar here, just to see if it works. So you pull that, and there we go, all sorted. So that's it, job done. I think it's beer time. Saturday the 28th of January, another cold winter's day, grey still, about 5 degrees. Typical winter's day. It's going to warm up a bit next week, apparently getting to double figures, maybe 11 degrees for the start of February. Well, I've been a bit busy with this thing, just tidying up the electrics here. Not as tidy as I would like, but certainly got it into some sort of loom. And I've got here bubbling away in this bucket is my rear number plate. This is the bucket of molasses, which is going to be in there for the next 10 days or so. It says for 2 weeks. See if I can get rid of all the rust. And the same is going on in the tank, which this is due for final fermentation by next Thursday, and we'll see if the rust has come off. In the meantime, it's undercarriage day, because I'm going to try and, well, start to fit the centre stand, but I've got 2 bolts that I've got to get from Flex. Well, pins actually, with some split pins. So that'll be today's job, and then I hope to be fitting the springs from the forks into the forks and filling up with fork oil, and then putting the decorative lid on top of that, and then I'll be back to the engine. Oh, I've been busy doing, look at that, bit of soldering, putting on some bullets. Spent a lot of time soldering the last few days, but it's back to the heavy metal now. Well, today's been a bit of a disaster because I was trying to fit my centre stand. The next thing I noticed was a plume of smoke coming up from the battery area, and the next thing was a burning cable, and then it all went up in flames. And that is the result. One X harness, I might be able to repair it, but I think the easiest thing to do, safest thing to do, is buy a new harness. Another 80 quid down a tube. Reminds me of my old Motor Guzzi Spada that caught fire in the back of my house. Totally wrote the bike off. A lot of work up in smoke.